What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about a very interesting report, very disappointing, too, if it ends up being true, and I have really no reason to doubt it. A Blade Runner game was canceled from Supermassive Games. Now, you could talk about the Blade Runner angle, you could talk about Supermassive, you could talk about the entire thing. We're going to touch upon, a couple different elements, but I just kind of want to start this video by talking about like Supermassive and doing something like this. And it's something I even tweeted. I think this would be a good sign. It would have been a better sign if it wasn't canceled, just to kind of show that they are willing to do it for like other properties. In fact, I think Supermassive, one of their better strengths is they've kind of isolated what they're good at, right? Like kind of like their routine in making video games. And I feel like they have an opportunity to go out or to have other companies come to them and say, hey, can you make, I've always pitched Scream. Can you please, for the love of God, make us a literal, based off the IP, a Scream video game? And to be honest with you, I don't know if there's anybody better than Supermassive to do it. And I think, not to go too much off on a tangent of what they should do, but just, having that opportunity and the fact that this very much seems real, I think that is a good sign, because I think it would be cool to have a blend of the dark pictures and some of the, the horror stuff that they do, obviously the Quarry and all that jazz, to do that, and then to also kind of mix it with an established IP, doing a Blade Runner, doing, maybe a Scream one, whatever, right? Having that kind of blend, I feel like would be really good. With that being said, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen because this thing was canceled. So I want to kind of go over like the Spark Notes version of it. You can read the entire thing. Insider Gaming broke the news here. So they say that a Blade Runner game was canceled from Supermassive. It was going to be a character-focused cinematic action-adventure game where you are the only Blade Runner in 2065. The game would feature a 10 to 12 hour single-player story that, per document sent to them, involved a compelling story blending the philosophical themes of Blade Runner with kinetic action-adventure gameplay. It began pre-production in September of 24, with the core team comprised of those who worked on The Quarry. Pre-production was scheduled to end in March 2025, with the end of prototyping in September of 25, and then a full release was planned for September of 27 on PS5, Xbox Series S and X, PC, and the next generation of consoles, which, by the way, may I just cut this for a second? That's pretty telling, right? So they were planning that in 2027 it was coming to, I don't know, I feel like 2027 is probably the year that's going to happen, but we'll keep going. It's got the budget, $45 million, with $9 million of it being for capture, performance capture, and acting. They say towards the bottom, one source who was close to it said that the whole thing, just like what they were doing, was rather impressive. As for the reason of it, being canceled, it was said that their rights owner is to blame. It's understood that the game was canceled late last year. Now, they say Supermassive said they're unable to comment on this, while the rights holders for Blade Runner has yet to respond. So look, I mean, like I said kind of in the beginning, well, number one, I'm not even that big of a Blade Runner guy. I love the newest movie, but, I wouldn't consider myself, this diehard fan. I would absolutely have played this game like 100%, but, is it absolutely crushing? I mean, I can just, I guess, be honest and say no. It's not like it was like a personal favorite franchise of mine that got, then it would be more personal, right? Then it would be more aggravating. But, I do think this is a big deal. I mean, you don't like to see this kind of stuff happen. It sounded like it was canceled extremely quickly, right? Like they started it in September and it was maybe canceled like 3-4 months after. Also important to note, like they said, it was the team that made The Quarry who jumped. So remember, this is at least how I think it works. I'm pretty sure this is how it works. Supermassive is not just one studio, right? There's several, but there's like that team that specifically did like Until Dawn, and they are the same ones who then, I mean, yes, they had people leave and come in and all that stuff, but they did The Quarry, right? So that's like a separate, like spin-off type team. I don't even know if you would consider it like the major main team of Supermassive, because you also have the teams that are churning out the Dark Pictures games, right? But, that team, I think, is actually very, very skilled. I don't think The Quarry is nearly as good as Until Dawn, but I think it's definitely solid. And this game, by the way, like, I don't think you can break the Supermassive type experience, okay? Like, I know what they described it as being. I'm sure you can iterate and change a little bit, but ultimately I think it's going to be similar to what you've played in other Supermassive games. But they have an opportunity, I think, to have maybe done different stuff. So I don't want to like discount the possibility that they could do more. It's just that we haven't really seen it yet. But it's disappointing. You know, again, like I said in the beginning, I mean, you would like to kind of see, I would. I don't know about you. You can let me know in the comments. But I would like to see stuff like this happen more. I think they're a company that doesn't necessarily need it. Because technically, they're always working on like new, like the anthology thing is, you know, interesting, I guess, right? I was going to say because, you know, they're always kind of crafting original IP. And it's like, if you make an Until Dawn and then it works, you could keep going with that, right? If you make The Quarry and it works, they never really seem to do that. And I don't know if that's because it doesn't work or it's just because they don't want to, right? Like you pick a Dark Pictures game that really, really takes off. They've never made a sequel to one of them, but is that because that's not what they want to do, or is that because none of the Dark Picture games have really done all that well? You don't really know. But again, I think to balance it, where it's like they're constantly creating new stuff, and maybe you have one or two that hits, and then you can kind of make that a reoccurring thing. But then to also balance it with like, hey, yeah, almost a Telltale of sort, but doing it in the Supermassive formula. They're one of the only ones that freaking do it because Telltale is MIA and many other companies like that have just outright died, right? So I don't like to see that because, you know, I don't like to see companies falling apart. I don't like to see Supermassive canceling that because, you know, again, they're just very, very few of them do it anymore. So let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.